Hey guys, so I'm gonna keep talking. Today we're talking about blue people. And it's something in me feels like saying, so do you feel like learning about more crazy stuff? You know? But okay, so the blue people, they are actually all over the world, kind of like the albinos, right? So a lot of people say they have defective genes, and that angers me so much because they're not defective. They're the original genes. We are foolish if you think that you're the only people in the world and we all look the same. We're the ones that have survived because we've probably killed off all these other races because we don't like what's different, right? So they have albinos, which are people who are purely white. They have white hair, white skin, red eyes, right? Now there's blue people, which I'm going to read some information on in a minute. And if you think about why the movie The Avatar is made with blue people, it's because they've gone as far back as you can even imagine, but they've just died off as a species. But we don't know that because we've only been fed this terrible information. And think about one thing, okay? Because this was a huge red flag a long time ago when I heard about this. So you know that all the textbooks for most of the schools are made in Texas, right? Those people, those conservative Republican people, write the history books, right? They edit the history books. They change the history books. The history that we know is the history that they want us to know. So they had a meeting where they wanted to remove the Holocaust and slavery from the textbooks. Look it up. I don't make this stuff up. Why? Because they didn't think that it was necessary for us to learn those things because it happened so long ago. But we're still going to learn about dinosaurs. We're still going to learn about... Why are we learning about dinosaurs? Because they're connected to the reptilians. You know? Do you understand what I'm saying? You saw my last video about the reptilians, the carrions, the felines, right? So there's certain things that they want to keep in history because then they're going to go back and teach it with their version, right? So they don't want the Holocaust and they don't want slavery, right? Because if you have a whole generation of people that are growing up and saying, it never existed, it's not in my history books, my teacher said it doesn't exist, because now they're going to plant teachers that are saying, this isn't real, it's all a lie, it was a facade, it was mass hallucination, blah, blah, blah. And then you have us, the older generation, saying, no, we lived through it, it's real, it's true, you know, this is not a lie. And then the new generation's like, you know what, I don't know what you're talking about, you're crazy. You know, it'll die out, and then that history will cease to exist. It's a miracle that the Greek gods and their history of Greek mythology has lasted this long. The Jews and the Muslims, I'm like so curious. That's the next thing I want to get into, is learning about their culture, because I believe that they have the truth. You know, like they know more of the truth than we know. So there was a time where, and it's, I don't know if they did vote to take it out, but look it up. There was like a vote where they wanted to take out slavery. So now I'm thinking the reason they did this is because they already knew that they were going to have somebody in the presidency in either with this election or the last one, because right now Trump is president. And they have this huge plan about how they want to eradicate people that are different. They want the white race to be supreme. Now, my theory, if you know anything about the Lemurians and the Atlanteans, which I spoke about before, right? They went underground. So the Lemurians went underground. They're in Mount Shasta in Arizona, which is where I want to go there. People say they see them all the time. They're these tall beings. They're white. Some people say they're blue, which goes back to the blue people. And they're very pale and they have blonde hair. Now, my theory is if you've been underground for thousands of years without sunlight, you're going to be pale white. And your eyes are going to be blue because you're not seeing the natural light. Does that make sense? They probably have like superficial light, maybe like LED light. I don't know, not LED light because that's our thing, but they have a way of surviving down there. That's why their eyes are blue. So when Hitler, I know, right, had this whole vision of cleansing the race and making it pure, he said that his vision was tall white people, you know, beautiful, strong, white, Caucasian people with blue eyes and blonde hair. Meanwhile, look at Hitler. He doesn't look like that. But that goes back to, he probably saw, met, or heard about these beings that were living underground, that were the original race, or maybe they came to him, or like he learned about it, and that's what he thinks is the superior race, not realizing that the only reason they probably look like that is because they went underground and they had no access to light. So this whole thing of Hitler, and Hitler is very famous for being into the occult and the supernatural, and he targeted the Jews. And I think the reason he targeted the Jews is because the Jews are the people of David, right? And he was doing a lot of like tests on people with abilities, like psychics and people who can move things. And he wanted to create this superhuman race of people who had all these skills. So they did a lot of DNA testing and splicing. It wasn't just the eradication of Jews because he was racist. It was because he was trying to get something from them. They were the chosen people. I don't know if this is why they were the chosen people. I'm putting things together right now. I'm just, because I always reveal to you when it's my theory, but like, it's a fact that he was doing supernatural and occult testing, and he was into all that stuff. It's a fact that he wanted the blonde hair, blue-eyed race. It's a fact that he killed millions of Jews, and he targeted the Jews. My theory is because they are the chosen people of David, they probably are more susceptible to having these gifts. And you put as many of them together to see which ones had the gifts, so he could find out which ones to grab to get that DNA and the splicing and do tests on and all these other things to create this super race that he wanted to. Does that make sense? I know, it sounds far-fetched, crazy. Don't really care, because this video, all my videos are meant to reach whoever they're meant to reach, right? So the blue people. So there's also people that went underground that were blue. And now the most current story that's, in America, because I'm American and I'm in New York, is the Fugates or Fugati, or however you want to say it, Fugate. They're in Kentucky. And there's 6 generations of blue people. And they say that it's a defective genes, and now they're saying it has something to do with your hemoglobin. And normally the average person has 1 to 2% of this, but people that have 10 to 20% then have a blue tinge skin. It's not a defective gene. It's a recessive gene. It's not defective, which means that it was original. It's part of the original DNA. I remember watching this documentary about how Earth is a test tube almost. And what they did is that aliens came here and they put different species of humans and apes and humanoid ape type people in different parts of the world, and they separated them through natural things like mountains, because they couldn't really travel the way that we travel now, right? So it was very difficult and very cumbersome for somebody to travel over mountains. That's why there's a lot of mountainous regions and things like that. And they were separated, and then when they met and they actually started to breed, because like they some people traveled to other places and they bred, they would just eradicate the whole species. That's why sometimes in history, if you really study archaeology and you study different types of humanoids, like in the history you have like the Neanderthal, they're all different types of humans with different shaped heads and different structures of the body and their bones. And it's because they're all different versions of humans that were created, and they're all specific to a region. And then some of the species just eradicated, like they don't exist anymore. So the theory is that these were all test subjects, and that's why they were kept apart, and that whenever they mixed, they just eradicated the whole thing. So the blue people are one species, the albinos are another, the black people are another, white people are another. Like they're just, Latin indigenous people, Indian, Native American, we're all different. We're all human, but we're different. And then now, with the way that things are going, everybody's mixing. Some people keep their blood pure. Everybody's mixing. Everybody's like having, mixed babies from different religions and different cultures. And I guess now they're just like, screw it. Let's just see what happens. Let's see what happens to this. We're watching, humanity evolve. But then there's some people that are like, I don't want this to happen. The Trumps, the whole white supremacist thing, Hitler, like, Stalin. There was like always people, Trujillo, that believe they're all part of this secret society. They're all related in some way or another. They're all connected somehow. But they don't want that. I remember I made a video a while ago about the guy from the Netherlands who was running for president that looked very much like Trump. Blonde hair, a little crazy. He was talking about he doesn't want, Muslim people in the country and blah, blah, blah. He talked a lot like Trump, which is why I said in all of these countries, there is like a secret society that's like they're emerging now, and they're running for presidency and they're running for government. And Trump was like the first one, and then everything was supposed to fall into place because everybody follows America, like the domino effect. And they're all there spewing the same thing, talking about Muslims and this and that, trying to create hate, trying to create a unity of hate so we can target a culture. And after we target that culture, then we target another, right? And it just goes on and on and on and perpetuates, and then we perpetuate hate. But we have evolved to the point where we're like, no, we don't want anything to do with that. So the election in the Netherlands was changed because of what happened in the United States. And instead of being like, oh, we want to be like the United States, they're like, you know what? After watching this thing with Trump, more people showed up to this election than ever in the history. And the person that was thought of to not win ended up winning because they were like, we don't want a Trump world here. So we're going to vote for the other guy. And then the other guy won. And then it also changed the outcome in France's election as well. So when I talk to you guys, I'm not talking to you like I'm a crazy person. I don't know what I'm going. Like I look at the world. Like I'm a knowledge seeker. Like people like me really don't exist. And if you do, please find me because I'm so lonely. I really need somebody to talk to that gets me. And like so, I'm studying like the world. I'm studying religion. I'm studying archaeology. I'm studying history. I'm studying anything that I can get this information, and then I decide, does this seem realistic? Or does it not? Does this make sense in the history timeline? I'm trying to put together the real history, or does it not? Will I know everything? No. But I know a lot more than most people. I'll tell you that. Or at least enough to have a conversation or understand what's going on. Switzerland has the best, government and economy. I think it's really interesting, and I want you guys to know this, that the highest paid person in Switzerland can only make a certain percentage, like they have like a formula, and it's like a certain number times what the poorest person in Switzerland makes. That's how much the richest person in Switzerland can make as income. So whatever money you make outside of Switzerland, that's your money. But as income, you cannot make a salary more than a certain number times the poorest person. Isn't that beautiful? It's to maintain the gap between poor and rich, to minimize the caste system, to create a middle class, to make sure that there is equality generally. They're just so amazing. I love the Swiss. We really need to look into it. It's really almost like a perfect society. Even McDonald's, when you go to Switzerland, everybody imports their stuff from McDonald's, from wherever they get it from McDonald's, right? And I'm sure they have like factories and land in different places. But if you want to open a McDonald's in Switzerland, Switzerland told McDonald's, you want a McDonald's here, that's fine. But you have to use Swiss meat, Swiss potatoes, Swiss everything. It has to be from Switzerland. Our people are only going to have Swiss products in Switzerland. These are our people. We're going to take care of our people. And we're going to take care of our economy. And we're going to take care of our country. That is so beautiful to me. And so McDonald's has to get all their stuff from Switzerland, which I think everybody should do. And look into the Swiss government. If you want to fix society, if you want to fix this world, if you want to fix this government, if you want to look at the Swiss society. The Estonians are really good too when it comes to medical. Hillary Clinton actually went to Estonia to find out why in the entire world they have the lowest deaths of childbirth in the world. So less women die giving childbirth in Estonia than anywhere else. And Hillary Clinton went there in the 90s, I believe, to find out why. And that's why when she didn't win this presidency, I got upset, because I'm like, she did all of this work, all of this research for this moment, to be this woman, and all she did was try to make a better America. Like, okay, whatever, they make money, they're politicians, they're all gonna do shady shit. It's the way that it is when you get that far up. But her heart was more pure than any politician out there. And she had plans for us. That's why New York is the first state to have free university, 4-year university. Like in California, it's CUNY, like the community college. In New York, it's university. You can go to NYU, you can go to any school you want for 2 to 4 years, and however many years that you go to school for, and you get free education, you have to stay and work in the state. That seems pretty fair. You know what I mean? This is something she was working on. This is something she wanted to give to America, to the entire United States. She wanted all of us to have free health care. That's what she was working on. But y'all didn't listen to her because y'all just want to listen to the lies. You want to listen to the Hitlers and the Stalins and the bullshit. because you're trying to perpetuate your culture because that's what you're taught. Guess what? You're not the first culture. White people are not the first. They're not the first culture. Understand that and accept that. You're not. Okay, these are all lies. Okay, Egypt was huge. They were not white. Jesus was not white. So you need to get over that. Okay, that's one thing. Secondly, I'm going back to the blue people because I'm getting too emotional. So that's that, right? Now, when you read the history that I wrote before of the carrion people, they said that they created two species of birds, or the feline people, sorry. The felines created the humans, and the felines were redheaded and white. Now, I don't know if I believe that. I feel like that's edited history, because where did black people come from? Somebody tell me that. The blackest of the black people. Where did they come from? And if somebody says, oh, humans, slept with monkeys and they became that. No. Where did they come from? No, I don't believe that part of that story. It just doesn't make sense. There's so many of us. Where did the blue people come from? Albinos? Albinos could have been part of the white race. I get that part. Blonde-haired people? No. Stop. It just makes me so angry. So all this hate is perpetuated through propaganda. It's perpetuated through lies. It's perpetuated through fake stories. It's probably the reptilians that created it anyway, always trying to divide and conquer, where the humans were brought here and the felines were all loving and compassionate. We're here to love and evolve. And which is better? War, killing, causing pain, just so you can take over something to get more land, to get more, because that's your right? How does that even make sense? That's my right. How does that make sense? Compared to love and let's live in peace and let's just be happy. You want to go over there? Go take that piece of land, conquer that land, and go make it your own, and we'll just pretend that you don't exist, and we'll just all be happy and full of love and light and blah, blah, blah. Why does anybody think that war and hate and eradicating a species makes any sense in this day and age? That's why we're here, is to show the world that this does not make any sense whatsoever. It just really doesn't. Anyway, I'm just talking to you based on what I've learned and things that I've seen, and I'm 20 years ahead of my time, so don't even listen to me. Whatever. Well, no, listen if you want. This message is for whoever wants to hear it. So the blue people. So basically they say that methemoglobinemia, it's a long word, is a blood disorder in which an abnormal amount of methemoglobin, a form of hemoglobin, is produced according to the National Institutes for Health. Hemoglobin is responsible for distributing oxygen to the blood, to the body, and without oxygen, the heart, brain, and muscles die. So basically, they're saying that patients' lips, people that have too much of this methemoglobinemia, end up having blue skin, right? Patients' lips are purple, the skin looks blue, and the blood is chocolate covered because it's not oxygenated enough. But they still live to be old. They still live just like you and I, and they're okay. They just are a little bit different. Look it up. I don't know, making this stuff up. This is on abcnews.go, about the blue skin people. Then they say they also have blue skin people. Yeah, this is all Kentucky. But that there's a reason that they had, that's the point of my thing. There's a reason that they had the avatars be blue. And it's basically, okay, so I've been saying for a long time that movies and books are like signals to people who are in secret societies that have this knowledge of what's to come, or what's coming up next, or what to prepare for. They have this agenda and they know what they're supposed to do, right? So when you make movies like the Avatar with blue people, they're like, oh, something about the blue people. Maybe it's the theory behind it, the belief, but something's coming up with the blue people, right? So they're already familiar with this, and these are triggers. So when you watch movies like Star Wars and Star Trek, they're real. They're real. They might not be 100% factual, but they're generally real, and they're based on. I didn't realize that this thing was on. Hold on. And they're basically based on true information. So we do have communication with aliens. We don't, but they do. They know what's going on. Aliens are still here. They're still talking to us. There was another thing that my friend was telling me. Not my friend, a random encounter actually, where he was saying that a lot of the technology that we've had, some people say that it's because of the spaceship that crashed in Rosalind, and that when that spaceship crashed, we were able to look at their technology and then create all of this technology. Because if you look at the history over the last 2,000 years, we've only been technologically advanced for the last 50 years. Why is it that in 50 years out of the entire history of the world, all of this information is coming in? Two reasons. One, either it's true about the Rosalind and we're getting access to all this information, or they say a lot of spaceships crashed. There was a bunch of spaceships that crashed in Russia that we had asked to get access to. And there was a bunch of spaceships that crashed in the United States and Canada and all these different places. So all these governments are working on these spaceships to get this technology, right? That's why our technology or our system, our society has advanced so much in the last 50 years. Because when I grew up, I was born in 1979. And when I grew up, we didn't have cell phones. You had one phone. You know what I mean? Like, and then I remember when the beepers came out. That was a big deal. And I remember watching James Bond movies and he used to talk into his phone. And all those things, the Jetsons, those were all warnings and signs to let people know that this is what's coming. Prepare yourself for this. If you are in the secret society, get ready to invest in these type of stocks. Get ready to create these type of products. Get ready to make this happen, because we're all going to become millionaires because we're part of the secret society, and that's how we maintain ourselves. So these are all warnings. So get ready to do this so that you can get in early, so that you can maintain your status and you can still be an innovator and you can control history, thought, you can control information, because they're all part of this, right? So the Jetsons and James Bond, those were all signs and signals to these people, right? And then I remember it was from beepers to cell phones. Cell phones were big, like they were big, like cell phones, right? And then they got smaller, and then you had the StarTAC, which was really small. Then they started holding information. Then you were able to text, and you had to text, one number at a time. So ABC was like 1, DEF was like 2, right? Or I think ABC was 2. Let's see, it's on my phone. Yeah, whatever. And then they started to make the smartphones. I remember the first touchscreen phone. I got that. It was by HTC, right? And this was all in a span of like, I remember beepers were like 1990 something to like 1997, and then cell phones were like 97 to now. But like between 1997 to like 2003, they were just regular, and then they started getting more. Like that's when the touchscreen came out, and then that's when the iPhone came out, and then that revolutionized everything. And a lot of people are saying that Steve Jobs was a starseed. His goal was to create the phone or the technology that would bring you ease of information and access, because before that you still needed the internet and you still needed to search. But once they created the iPhone and apps and the ability to share information, like his job was to make sure that we were up to date and we were socializing and we were put together, and that all came from part of the invention of the iPhone. I mean, yes, the internet and Google and this and that, but those people that create these things are spreading information. So a lot of people say that Steve Jobs was a starseed, and there's a reason that he was. Oh my God, I forgot the name of that culture. That's so bad. These people that we don't want to let in, the refugees. Mind blown. I mean, trust me, I know a lot of things I just can't. Serbians? Is that what they're called? No. Oh my God. Yeah. Well, he's that race. The refugees. Where are they from? Syria. They're from Syria. So he's Syrian. So the fact that he created the system that helped the world and humanity, and he ends up being Syrian, and now the Syrian refugee was to build more compassion for the Syrians. You see, so everything is kind of linked together. You don't have to believe all this. So we were talking about blue people, right? So I'm just going to go, because I know some people are going to be looking at this and being like, what the fuck? But I just want to give you like a huge entire history lesson. And I'm sorry, I curse. I can't help it. Well, no, I could help it. I just don't care. But, if I was on television, I probably would care. I'd be more whatever, but might let me school you, whatever. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, I wanted to see what other parts of the world there are blue people. Where are blue American people come from? And the only reason I'm doing this is because I want you to see like how I would look up information. So the Fugates of Kentucky, Fugates, they have 6 generations of blue people, and they keep making more blue people. So you never know. We might be blue in 300 years, or the albinos recessive gene might come out, and we might all be white with red eyes. You don't know. You don't know. I think it's interesting that their blood is chocolate covered and that their lips are purple. I didn't know that. That's actually kind of cool. But yeah, the funny thing is with the internet, I know there's people from other places because I was reading those articles. But whenever you look it up, the only thing that comes up is them, people from Kentucky. Nothing else comes out, which I think is really strange because I know that there's people in Polynesian islands that have that seen blue people. There's a lot of people that have said that they've seen blue people come out from underground, which I think might be the Lemurians also. But let's just close that page because it's not really useful. So I just wanted to share with you what I've learned, how I kind of look it up, and how to me these things make sense, and how there's a pattern of behavior because everything is cyclical. And history tends to repeat itself because we choose to ignore it or we choose to believe that it's not going to happen again, but it always does. So what happens is people that have like hate, malice, greed, ego in their heart will hear history and then try to be the bad guy because they want the control and the power. And then the rest of us are trying to be the good guys because we love peace and unity. So there'll always be this back and forth, which is why like when you watch those movies about we're going to remove people that have like this gene that promotes hate, that's next. So, like, you've seen all those movies. I mean, they were a big deal when I was growing up in the 80s of, like, these cultures and societies in the future that are just really calm and mellow. And if you have this gene, Divergent is a good one, then they eradicate you or you don't even get a chance to exist because they don't want that type of person in their society. I know the Scorching Trials, what's that thing called? The Maze. That was another one where, like, certain people there was like a disease that came across and all these people died, only a few people survived, and they're trying to figure out why. And it all has to do with like putting them through these trials and blah blah blah. So it's really interesting, and again, I think those are warnings or things to come. Like we all knew this stuff was coming. Star Trek and Star Wars and the Jetsons, we're not that far behind it. Like look at what's going on with the driverless cars. Pretty soon they're going to be flying, and we're going to say that it's magnetic. It's all based on the magnets. But you know what I'm going to tell you right now? The North Pole and the South Pole are magnetic. So if we keep messing with the magnetic fields, it's bad enough we have all of this, like frequencies with the cell phones and the self-charging phones, and now we're having electric cars, and then we have the radio frequencies and the television frequencies and the Wi-Fi. That is just not good for the planet, guys. It's not good. It's good for sharing, and you're all fucked. It's not good. And now with the magnets, not good. And I've been saying for a long time that when they take oil out of the ground, imagine having blood, right? The earth is a living organism, and it's the blood of the earth, and you're pulling the blood out, and the earth's getting pissed. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna do a tsunami. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. But that could also be like the military testing like nuclear bombs and weapons underground, the USOs, the UFOs. We don't know, right? It could be like the Leviathan awakened. We don't know. So when you pull oil out from the ground, I believe that the oil works as a temperature control. So the core of the earth is molten lava and hot, which is why lava comes out from the ground, right? But if you go to the deepest parts of the ocean, it's cold, freezing cold. Like the further down you go, the colder it gets. It doesn't get warmer, it gets colder. But the center of the earth is lava. So the lava comes up through the mountains, right? And it creates like volcanoes, and then it solidifies and it creates more land. That's how land is created. Through, the lava coming out, solidifying, more lava coming out, solidifying, more lava coming out, solidifying. Hot springs are because the earth has lava underneath it, or heat, right? So I believe that oil, that's why I hate all these oil people, regulates the temperature between the molten hot lava and the freezing cold of the ocean. So what happens when you pull the oil out? These two things, they get closer and closer, and the temperature starts increasing and causing bum 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 climate change. The North Pole is melting. Some people say that it has to do with the hole in the ozone layer. How do you think the hole in the ozone layer started? planes, hairspray. It wasn't hairspray near us. It's planes. You know how many planes go out every single day? We are so screwed. Now we have the radiation everywhere. You think that's good? No. What about all the poisons that they're dropping from the, the chemtrails? That can't be good either. And now they want to rip more oil out? Why would you want to take the oil out of the earth when we have solar energy, wind energy? We have alternative sources of energy. Why? Because they want to create a cataclysmic event that's going to kill a lot of people. They already have the places that they're going to go. They're going to go underground. They have these cities that are already built. You've heard of them. Look it up. There's cities that are built all over the Midwest underground. They have cities that are built underwater where like these rich and wealthy people are going to go and hide when this cataclysmic event happens. When this war starts, they're going to be fine. Their kids are going to be fine. They don't care. They just want more people to die because they believe there's no such thing as climate change. It's just that there's too many people on Earth because the Earth is only supposed to sustain 1 billion people. And there's 11 billion people. So we have to kill as many people as we can, which is why we constantly have war, because we do have to kill people because it's just too many people in the world. But if we learn to live well and to be kind and generous to the world and use and recycle and be more sustainable and collect rainwater and like do the things that we need to do to survive, we'll be okay. I mean, at some point it's just going to be too many people, overpopulation. But that's because we have medicine. So medicine allows people to live longer. So the advances in the medical field have allowed people who normally would die but now had a triple or quadruple bypass or had a heart attack and then they had the pallets put on them. Those people who, I don't want to say were meant to die because it's a terrible thing, would have normally died are now alive. So now you have more people that are alive. There's a lot more women who are surviving childbirth. That's a lot of people died doing that. So these are things that we need to account, when we see this. So their theory is kill as many people as you can, right? Bring the numbers down. We already have the living space. We could just move people into those living spaces. There's houses everywhere. You know what I mean? Their buildings are already built. There's cars in the factory. We just have to repopulate it. So their whole thing is we'll get rid of all these people and we'll repopulate it with white people. So the white people are going to get excited, because, oh my God, my feet. When they're left, they're going to take the jobs and the houses and the this. That's what happened with Hitler. What do you think happened to all those Jews? Their homes, their money, their gold, their assets, they were taken by the government and dispersed to other people. That's why they lived so well, during that whole thing. They were paying for vacations for Germans to go on boats and to travel and to do all these things. That was all based on the Jews that they killed and all the assets they acquired from them. Learn your history. I don't make this stuff up. It's there. We're just not teaching it. So I'm going to go now because it's hot. Bye.